أحد الأئمة يصف الخمر بأنها أم الخبائث، وأنا أقول أن الصهيونية هي أم الخبائث، لأنها هي أسباب هالمشاكل هذه كلها في العالم.
Revered as one of the most powerful king of Saudi Arabia, King Faisal is widely considered as the father of modern Saudi Arabia. His reign, a story of ambition, conflict and profound change, not only shaped the destiny of a nation, but echoed across the Arab world and beyond. He was the main character behind the oil embargo that targeted nations that had supported Israel during the Yom Kippur War, which led to the first oil crisis. Although there was some discontent with some of the social changes he carried out, the world, and in particular the Arab world, grew to respect Faisal as a result of his policies modernizing Saudi Arabia, his management of the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, his reputation as a staunch opponent of Zionism, and the country's fast-rising financial strength. His life ended tragically when he was assassinated by his own nephew. This is the story of Faisal bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, King of Saudi Arabia. King Faisal was born in Riyadh on April 14, 1906. He was the third son of Abdulaziz bin Abdul Rahman Al Saud, first king of Saudi Arabia. By the time of his birth, Saudi Arabia territory was just a small fraction of what it is today. His father had few years back, in 1902, conquered and founded the Emirate of Riyadh. He continued his conquest and in 1913 conquered the Emirate of Najd and Hassa and later the Kingdom of Hejaz in 1925, which all together became the modern Saudi Arabia. He did not have the chance to see his mother, Tarfa bint Abdullah, as she passed away when he was just 6 months old. For this reason, his father sent him to be raised by his maternal grandparents. At a very young age, Faisal quickly displayed an avid interest for learning, mastering the Quran and Islamic law by age 9. Although not always seeing his father, his influence was nevertheless omnipresent. His father nurtured in him a passion for military and political affairs. He also developed a great interest in horseback riding, influenced by his father. Due to the fighting that was occurring as his father was conquering most of Arabia, Faisal grew up in an environment that highly valued courage and was every now and then accompanying his father on this conquest. Faisal had 2 big brothers, although not from the same mother, Turki bin Abdulaziz Al Saud and Saud bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. Turki was 6 years older than him, while Saud was just 4 years older. Turki, being the first son of King Abdulaziz, was the heir to the throne. Being the heir to the throne, Turki was expected to be given more and more important roles by his father. Following the end of the First World War, King Abdulaziz, who had been on the side of the British in fighting the Ottoman Empire, was invited to visit London in 1919. Turki, 17 at this time, was assigned by his father to go to London on his behalf. However, before Turki could make the trip, he suddenly died due to the Spanish flu that was running rampage in that period. To the surprise of many Saudi officials, King Abdulaziz did not choose his second son, Saud, to replace Turki, but rather chose Faisal, who had just turned 13, to visit London. The untimely death of his elder brother propelled young Faisal into the spotlight and made him the first ever Saudi Arabian royal to be in England. His visit lasted 5 months and he met various officials. He went on to visit France, being also the first royal to have an official visit in that country. At the age of just 13, He had started already to step onto the world stage. By 1925, King Abdulaziz had taken over the Kingdom of Hejaz, which contained the cities of Mecca, Medina, and Jeddah. Following this conquest, on January 9, 1926, his father appointed him Viceroy of Hejaz, while his elder brother Saud was named Viceroy of Najd. On the 23rd of September 1932, on behalf of his father, Faisal was the one to announce officially the establishment of Saudi Arabia in Mecca by reading out the royal decree that renamed the Kingdom of Hejaz and Najd as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Due to his early involvement in the country's foreign affairs, Faisal was always the overseer of his country's foreign policy ever since the establishment of Saudi Arabia until his death, save a small 2-year break between 1960 and 1962. After the death of his eldest son, Turki, King Abdulaziz had favored Faisal as a possible successor due to Faisal's extensive knowledge, as well as his years of experience. Since Faisal was a child, King Abdulaziz recognized him as the most brilliant of his sons and often tasked him with responsibilities in war and diplomacy. "I only wish I had 3 Faisals," King Abdulaziz once said, when discussing who would succeed him. However, in the fear that it may lead to decreased stability, King Abdulaziz finally made the decision to keep Saud as crown prince. King Abdulaziz died on November 9, 1953, and Faisal was at his side. The elder half-brother Saud became king. Faisal was then appointed crown prince. On August 16, 1954, he was made prime minister. By appointing Faisal as prime minister and also minister of foreign affairs, his brother Saud was giving him wide executive powers. Soon, however, a power struggle was about to ensue between Saud and Faisal that would eventually lead to Saud abdication and Faisal coronation. Since his rise to the throne, Saud had driven the country into serious debt and embarrassed the royal family by becoming embroiled in a plan to assassinate President Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt. Being the country's prime minister, Faisal was mainly in charge of the economy and foreign affairs of the country. On December 18, 1960, Faisal resigned for his position as a sign of protest, citing his brother's interference and frustration of his economic and financial reforms. In 1962, however, Faisal rallied enough support within the royal family to install himself as prime minister for a second time. As months were unfolding, other royal princes started meeting and asking Faisal to take over effective control from Saud. In early 1963, Faisal took advantage of Saud's absence from the country for medical reasons to amass greater power for himself as Saudi Arabia's political and economic circumstances worsened. He removed many of Saud's loyalists from their posts and appointed like-minded princes in key military and security positions, such as his half-brother Prince Abdullah, to whom he gave command of the National Guard in 1962. Upon his return, Saud rejected Faisal's new arrangement and requested that all of his powers be restored. In response, Faisal called a meeting of all senior members of the royal family, excluding Saud, as well as ulema and tribal elders. As a result, the assembly supported Faisal and proposed that Saud be deposed from the throne and Faisal be proclaimed monarch. The Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia issued a fatwa calling on the king, Saud, to accede to his brother's demand. Faisal, on the other hand, urged that Saud keep the royal title. He was said to have felt bound by his oath to his father that he would recognize Saud as king. All that mattered, he maintained, was that Saud leave power in Faisal's hand and stay out of public life. Saud continued his attempts to regain power and formed a cabinet in Jeddah in December 1963. He ordered the Mecca radio to announce the formation of his cabinet. Faisal then ordered the army forces loyal to him to besiege the radio station and did not allow the radio to broadcast it. Following these events, Faisal ordered the National Guard to surround Saud Palace. In March 1964, his loyalists, outnumbered and outgunned, Saud relented and appointed Faisal as regent. A meeting of the elders of the royal family and the ulema was convened later that year, and the Grand Mufti decreed a second fatwa, calling on Saud to abdicate the throne in favor of his brother. Faisal believed that Saud continued ill health compelled him to take the throne, thus absolving him of the oath. The royal family supported the fatwa and immediately informed Saud of their decision. Saud, by now deprived of all his powers, agreed, and Faisal was proclaimed king on November 2, 1964. Saud then went into exile, finding refuge in Egypt before eventually settling in Greece. Upon becoming king, Faisal, in a famous speech, said, "I beg of you, brothers, to look upon me as both brother and servant. Majesty is reserved to God alone, and the throne is the throne of the heavens and earth." His rule was marked by outstanding reforms and modernization, paving the way for a prosperous Saudi Arabia. He spearheaded the creation of essential industries such as petrochemicals, iron, steel, cement, and mining. Recognizing the significance of skill development, Faisal advocated for sending students to Western countries for training, thereby contributing to the growth of industrial ventures. He initiated several projects to improve agriculture. Being a mostly deserted country, the search for water was made a priority. Education received paramount attention during Faisal's reign. Early in his rule, Faisal issued an edict that all Saud princes had to school their children inside the country, rather than sending them abroad. This had the effect of making it popular for upper-class families to bring their sons back to study in the kingdom. Special provisions were made to financially support families who lacked resources to educate their children, emphasizing equal opportunities for both male and female students. Textbooks were distributed free of charge, eliminating any associated fees. Especially, Faisal is also recognized for his significant contribution to women's education in Saudi Arabia, starting from his time as Crown Prince. In 1956, he established the first regular government schools for girls in the country. It was under his tenure as Prime Minister that a royal order was issued marking the official beginning of women's education in Saudi Arabia, providing them with broader access to educational opportunities. The 1950s and 60s saw numerous coups d'etat in the region. Muammar Gaddafi coup d'etat that overthrew the monarchy in oil-rich Libya in 1969 was especially threatening for Saudi Arabia, due to the similarity between the two sparsely populated desertic countries. As a result, Faisal undertook to build a sophisticated security apparatus and crack down firmly on dissent. In the summer of 1969, he ordered the arrest of hundreds of military officers, including some generals, alleging that a military coup d'etat was being planned. The coup was planned primarily by Air Force officers and aimed at overthrowing the monarchy and founding a Nasserist regime in the country. King Faisal claimed that Sami Sharaf, one of Nasser's officials, was the planner of the plot. The arrests were possibly based on a tip from American intelligence. Faisal was anti-communist. He refused any political ties with the Soviet Union and other communist bloc countries, professing to see a complete incompatibility between communism and Islam. He had a close alliance with the US, relying on it for arming and training his armed forces. The Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, wrote a letter to Faisal asking him to modernize Saudi Arabia, urging him to allow women to wear miniskirts and permitting the disco, among other things. Otherwise, the Shah felt he could not guarantee that the king would stay on the throne. Faisal is said to have reminded the Shah of Iran that he was not the Shah of France, and that he should keep in mind that Iran was a majority Muslim country. Effectively, the Shah would go on to be removed from his throne during the Iranian Revolution in 1979.
ولو أجمع العرب جميعا على أن يرضوا بوجود إسرائيل وبتقسيم فلسطين فلن ندخل معهم في هذا الاتفاق. لا يهمنا فإذا حلت الساعة ودق جرس الحرب والنضال فستروني أنا بنفسي وإخوتي وأبنائي أمامكم.
After he became foreign minister, Faisal was recognized for his support for the Palestinian cause, and he never hesitated to publicly state it and call for his brothers to take arms if needed. His involvement with the Palestinian cause began in 1938, when he represented his father in the London Conference on the Palestine issue. One of his policies on this issue was to refuse to recognize Israel, to unite Arab efforts while leaving differences aside, to donate money and fight, to establish a body representing Palestinians, and to involve Muslims in the defense of the cause. During the Six-Day War, Faisal ordered the Saudi Arabian armed forces to be on alert, cancelling all vacation and mobilizing forces in the kingdom's north. Following that, orders were issued for a force of 20,000 Saudi Arabians to travel to Jordan to participate alongside Arab forces. After the war, he stationed a Saudi force inside the Jordanian territory to provide support and assistance as needed for 10 years. After the fall of Jerusalem to the Israelis, he was said to have never smiled again, according to his relative. After President Nasser of Egypt died in 1970, Faisal drew closer to Nasser's successor, Anwar Sadat, who himself was planning a break with the Soviet Union and a move towards the pro-American camp. After Sadat launched the 1973 Arab-Israeli War, Faisal withdrew Saudi oil from world markets and was the primary force behind the 1973 oil crisis in protest over Western support for Israel during the conflict. The embargo was initially imposed on Canada, Japan, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and the United States, but it was later extended to Portugal, Rhodesia, and South Africa. The embargo triggered an oil crisis with numerous short and long-term implications for world politics and the economy. This was regarded as the defining act of Faisal's career and gained him lasting prestige among many Arabs and Muslims worldwide. Kissinger told King Faisal that if Saudi Arabia doesn't lift the boycott, America will come and bomb the oil fields. To which Faisal replied, "You are the ones who can live without oil. We come from the desert, and our ancestors lived on dates and milk, and we can easily go back and live like that again." In 1974, Faisal was named Times Magazine Man of the Year, and the financial windfall generated by the crisis fueled the economic boom that occurred in Saudi Arabia after his death. The new oil revenue also allowed Faisal to greatly increase the aid and subsidies began following the 1967 Six-Day War to Egypt, Syria, and the Palestine Liberation Organization. Like most Arab kings, Faisal had several wives, among which the most influential was Ifat bint Muhammad. Unlike most of his half-brothers, Faisal spoke fluent English and French. However, he preferred to speak in Arabic. When his translators made errors, Faisal would correct them. Compared to other Muslim rulers such as Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran, who almost exclusively wore a European-style outfit, Faisal was known to dress modestly, even in the presence of foreign dignitaries. On March 25, 1975, when the king was holding a majlis, an event where he opens up his residence to the citizens to enter and petition him, one of his nephews, also sharing a similar name, Prince Faisal, went to embrace him. When the king leaned to kiss him in accordance with Saudi custom, the prince took out his gun and shot him. The first shot hit the king's chin, and the second one went through his ear. Bodyguard hit the assassin with a sword, but he did not die. King Faisal was quickly taken to Central Hospital in Riyadh. He was still alive as doctors massaged his heart and gave him a blood transfusion. Unfortunately, their efforts were unsuccessful, and he died shortly afterward. Both before and after the attack, the assassin was reported to be calm. The funeral service and the burial of King Faisal were organized the following day, on March 26, 1975. During the funeral, the newly ascended king, Khalid, was seen weeping over his murdered brother's body. King Faisal was a visionary leader who transformed his country and influenced the Arab world. He implemented policies of modernization and reform, including the abolition of slavery and the opening of educations for girls. He was a staunch defender of the Palestinian cause and a vocal critic of Zionism. He was and is still widely respected and admired by his people and by many other leaders. King Faisal was a man of faith, courage, and wisdom, who left a lasting legacy for his nation and his people.
الشيوعية جت من الصهيونية. المبادئ الهدامة جت من الصهيونية. التفسخ الخلقي جانا من الصهيونية. الخروج على كل المبادئ وكل التقاليد وكل الأعراف وكل الآداب وكل الكرامة والشرف جاءت من الصهيونية. فإذا هي أم الخبائث وهي الأساس. والسبب في ذلك مثل ما ذكرت في الأول أنهم يحاولون على أنهم يسيطروا على العالم. هم لا يمكن يسيطروا بعددهم ولا بقوتهم، ولكن يسيطروا على العالم بتفكيرهم بهذه المبادئ يبثوها بين أبناء الشعوب. فلما تصل إلى درجة من التحلل والتفسخ وعدم القدرة في ذاك الوقت يسيطروا عليه.
Stay tuned for more personalities on Figures in Time, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment.